there's some of those things where you're kind of having these outside pressures of like, yeah, but I think maybe we're good right here. And so seeing some of those things, but also seeing that sometimes just doing it and actually being able to fail, learn from it is going to be probably one of the fastest ways to do it. And the hard thing is most of the people who are actually potentially pulling you back, it has nothing to do with them not caring. They just don't know. It's very tough because as humans, we always default to the negative. And so most people just need to actually take the first step. The real world, you never really see ducks in a row. Like it's one duck who decided to move and everybody else followed. And that's really like how you kind of have to do life and in business. All right, what's up, everybody? It's Joey with Rehab CEOs. So I'm just gonna walk y'all through a couple things here. So it's that time of the year where realistically, there's some people that are getting some amazing news, and there's people that are getting pretty heart-wrenching news of how they did on the boards. And so a lot of people don't really know. For me, I actually failed my boards twice. So, and I actually am not licensed either. So I actually never got licensed or anything like that. For some of y'all, you're like, well, that's not really relevant to me, Joey, but there's a lot of things that I actually learned during that process that I think will be really relevant for y'all. And so there's a lot of things that really kind of in life that we don't really see the things that we're learning during it. And so kind of retrospectively, like it's very easy for me to see that some of the things that I learned there are things that I've continued to pull into our business and things we pull into other people's businesses as we help them and everything like that. And so for me, of course, the reason I was even doing a lot of the actual stuff as far as going to school is because I was unhappy where I was, which pretty much anybody who starts a business is probably unhappy with the job they're at. They didn't like the way they're doing it and everything like that. And so I decided to go to PT school. And then during that time, I started doing marketing and kind of growing my business. I got my first client pretty much like a month before PT school, because I guess I was crazy enough to decide to run a business while going to PT school, while commuting and doing everything else that was kind of silly at the time. But it grew significantly during that time. And that's kind of how some businesses even kind of grow. It's like you kind of start doing it, you're kind of seeing if it's a real thing. I didn't really maybe even see it as a business to start with. And then went through PT school. And it was kind of by the end, like really the last year, I kind of realized I liked the marketing stuff significantly more than I really even liked actually the whole, like maybe being a staff PT or even owning my clinics, at least at that time. And so I was kind of split between this. And the hard thing about that is when it meant as soon as school was over, I was supposed to be studying for boards, but I was always just kind of doing it because like I didn't really like enjoy the actual clinical care, at least as much as like doing everything that I'm doing with marketing and growing businesses and everything like that. And so I wasn't really putting enough time to it, or I didn't even really have enough time to dedicate to it to actually be successful. And so this is probably going to be something to where like you're probably going to see this in your own business, especially if you're stuck in treatment. If you're stuck in treatment right now, there's probably the 5,000 hats you're wearing right now. You've got like your business hat, your leadership hat, your hiring hat, your marketing, your sales, your everything. If you're a parent, you've got that on top of it. If you're like, there's 100 of them. And so the issue with that is, one, we've got split focus and everything like that. But the hard thing about wanting to change stuff and do stuff like this is if you're stuck in treatment, or for me, I was still like producing inside the marketing role while trying to do the other stuff, is sometimes you actually have to kind of kill off one of those to make the other work. Or in the instance of someone being stuck in treatment, you don't almost want to actually push any harder because you're stuck in the treatment role right now, in the true producer role of being an actual like staff therapist within your own business. And so any growth just seems like more work. And you may not inherently realize that's why like you have these things of like should do's that you should be doing in your business and you haven't done them. Instead, it's easier to like check off the emails. It's easier to write an email on the back end for a nurture sequence or a blog or something like that that's like literally irrelevant to growth. And like, you know, it's probably not going to change it. It's because it doesn't seem like there's an end in sight. It's because you see that even if we do grow, well, that still means I have more work. And so for me, that was kind of the predicament I was in with actually making the transition to being like, hey, I actually don't want to actually become a licensed PT. I want to do this, is because I needed to finally make that true pivot, that true transition, so that I could actually start to feel the freedom of doing all the extra things. Cause I was kind of getting bound down. Like PTs are getting bound down by clinical care. I was getting bound down by trying to study for boards, which were completely irrelevant to me. But the hard thing about that is there's these beliefs and these things that are maybe being put on you. In my life, there's a lot of those things where it's like, well, like it was just expected of me. Like it's like, well, you went back to school and did all this stuff. Like it was expected that you need to actually get your license. It was people who genuinely cared and loved everything about like me and me being successful, not even trying to actually potentially say anything, but like they wanted what was best for them, and that was what they thought was the best route. There's some of you that are probably in that same situation where you have someone, maybe you're trying to make a leap, or maybe you're trying to open another location, and then they're like, oh, you see the extra headache of a second location, a fourth location, or whatever that is, or maybe an out-of-state location. There's some of those things where you're kind of having these outside pressures of like, yeah, but I think maybe we're good right here. And so seeing some of those things, but also seeing that sometimes just doing it and actually being able to fail, learn from it, is going to be probably one of the fastest ways to do it. And the hard thing is, most of the people who are actually potentially pulling you back, it has nothing to do with them not caring. They just don't know, or maybe you don't even have the level of conviction you need to have to be able to show them. And you almost just have to do it by actually showing them. Like it's the best way to show them it'll work is actually doing it. And so it's very tough because as humans, we always default to the negative. And it's like, well, what happens if we hire this PT and we can't get them full? Or what happens if we open this location if we can't make it work? What happens if I decide to not get my license and then decide to actually go into a full marketing company? What happens if I partner with Robbie on the coaching side and then like he's somehow crazy? But there's also the what happens if we fill him quickly and there's actually no issues. And so most people spend more time on the what could be bad to never make the actual decision. The time to make the decision is typically longer than the actual time to implement whatever you're thinking about doing. And so most people just need to actually take the first step. Like we're always kind of like, oh, I need to have my ducks in a row and stuff like that. But like in the real world, you never really see ducks in a row. Like it's one duck who decided to move and everybody else followed. And that's really like how you kind of have to do life and in business. And so if you're stuck somewhere, either you need to lead yourself or you need someone to help you get unstuck. Or if you're at a point where you just don't even like have the support system, maybe you need to have a better support system, or just have a good conversation with the ones that maybe just truly care, but just don't understand. Because if you actually talk to those people, like I had to have those conversations and like everybody was completely on board after I truly said like, hey, this is actually making it hard for me because I feel like I'm having some of this external pressure that I know you mean well, but like, this is what I want to do. And was it immediately overnight? Like there wasn't anything, well, like maybe you should get your license. Like, no, like that's just how life is. But I think the more you can look at this, you need to kind of definitely take this into consideration. Going back into the fact that this is actually the time, I'm kind of transitioning topics completely on this video for you, but this is new grad season. If you're not hiring right now, you need to be. So there's only like the only things you need to be thinking about, because there's two seasons. There's retention season, there's hiring season. New grads are coming. It is hiring season. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, we have another video on there. If you're interested in that video, comment below and I can send you the link. But retention seasons, hiring seasons, we need to know those, because if we do not hire now over the next couple months, what's going to happen is everybody's going to be scooped up. You're then going to get into your peak busy season. So is everybody else. And then the cost to hire someone is going to be $10,000 to $15,000 more a year. So if you're not hiring, there's really only a couple of reasons you're not. It's one, because you're afraid of making the leap. Two, you maybe don't think you can fill the potential marketing issue. Three, you can't pay them what you really probably need to be able to actually attract A-level talent. So it's a profitability issue typically. Or you just don't even really know how to like kind of bucket them, because there's kind of three buckets of PTs. It's like ones that are new grads that want mentorship, which is peak season for right now. There's one that's burnt out that actually wants to see less volume, or maybe just not have so much overbearing kind of management. And then there's the other that wants some type of upwards potential, leadership potential, or something like that. And so you kind of have to know how to speak to those and everything like that. There's a lot of kind of other things to consider there, but it's usually one of those 3 to 4 things of why someone doesn't actually want to hire. And so if you are needing help on how to hire, needing help on when to hire, who to hire, how to fill them, how to make enough profit, because I've never met a PT who doesn't actually want to pay their therapist more, or you're getting undercut by other people for other different things and you're just having a hard time. That's actually what our actual challenge is going to be on next Tuesday. So next Tuesday at 8 Eastern, it's going to be a Fill Your Practice Challenge. We're going to show you how to get more new patients, show you how to get more profit, and show you how to get more PTs to come work for you. And so if that sounds interesting, just comment below challenge and I can send you more info so that way we can help you with all this stuff. But regardless, if you're stuck right now, please reach out. If you're at a point where you need some support, even if it's just a vent, because maybe someone else in your actual life doesn't inherently understand all of that. Because if you're anything like me, I talk about this stuff all day. So I'm sure people just kind of start to zone out. So if you just need someone to bounce something off of, send me a message. I'm willing to talk. No sales pitch. Like if you're just like, hey, I just wanted to talk and I have no one else to talk to, send me a message, because entrepreneurship can be lonely. And I want to make sure that you feel like there's actually someone here that truly cares, because I do. Like I've been through most people know it. I failed I guess failed, but I did terrible on my dental boards. I was going to be a dentist before this and applied to dental school twice, didn't get in. Like I understand failure. I understand struggles. I understand all that stuff. So if you need someone, feel free to reach out. But if you're like, hey, I actually won't need some of the help on the new patients, profitability, any of those things, it's a free challenge. Hop on. It's 3 days. Again, if you want more information, just comment below challenge, and then we'll see you there.